we go with more answers to the Unit 7 exercises. We're on to exercise number 4, and exercise number 4 deals with the dollar value LIFO method. So what dollar value LIFO method is, it's a fast way to keep your numbers at FIFO and then convert them over to LIFO. Instead of having to keep two different sets of perpetual inventory records, you can just keep one for FIFO and then do some quick calculations to convert your FIFO numbers to LIFO. To do so, what you're going to need is the ending value of inventory recorded under FIFO at the end of each period and the price index for that period. And the price index is essentially what the increase in prices was of similar goods from one year to the next. So let's take 2015 for example. We have a price index of 105. That means that goods in 2015 cost 105% of what they would have cost in 2014. In 2016, we have a price index of 112. That means goods in 2016 cost 112% of what they would have cost 2 years earlier in 2014. So the price index compares the current year back to the base year, and our base year in this case is always 2014. So to do this conversion from FIFO to LIFO, we're going to need a chart that looks a little something like this, and let's start with our base year of inventory, which is 2014. Our inventory at end of year prices was $63,000. Well, if we bring that over and divide it by that year's respective price index, we convert it to what inventory would have cost in the base year. Well, it's $63,000. Why? Because 2014 is our base year. Inventory that cost $63,000 would have cost $63,000 in 2014. This is always going to be true of your first year because your first year is that base year. You can't convert something back to a year's prices when it is the current year. Now we need to layer our inventory. This is still a form of LIFO. We just have this one layer of inventory. So in 2014, we're going to make a layer for $63,000, and we're going to multiply by the price index of 1.0 to get our LIFO cost. So keeping inventory at FIFO and LIFO going to be the same in our base year of 2014. So our dollar value LIFO amount is going to be the same. And our LIFO reserve, which I'll get to in a minute, is going to be 0. This is always going to be true of your first year because it is the base year. It's just going to be dividing and multiplying by 1. That doesn't change any number. So your ending inventory number that you're going to have in your information should just carry through all the way across. These numbers are going to change, however, once we change the year. So in 2015, we are reporting inventory at end of year of $73,500. So let's bring that over to our EOY inventory column. That our end of year inventory valued at FIFO was $73,500. Now let's divide that by the price index for that year. In 2015, our price index is 105, meaning our goods cost 105% of what they would have cost the year before. So if we divide that out, that $73,500 worth of inventory that we had in 2015 would have cost us $70,000 the year before, which means our base year price is going up. Even if we compare to last year prices, we have more inventory on hand than we did before. Well, let's layer our inventory then. Because our inventory at base year price went up, we're going to have to create a new layer for the difference. So let's bring down what we had before. We have that 2014 layer of inventory. It's $63,000. Its price index was 1, meaning its LIFO cost was $63,000. Our inventory went from at base year price from $63,000 to $70,000. That is an increase of $7,000. So we're going to make a separate layer in 2015 for that amount of increase, that's $7,000. And then we're going to multiply that layer price of $7,000 times that year's price index, 1.05, bringing us a LIFO cost of $7,350. Now when we add those two numbers together, we get $70,350. What does this all mean? Well, at FIFO, our inventory is valued at $73,500. As you know by now, if you record at LIFO, you always report a lower value of inventory. So if we had been using the LIFO method this entire time, we would have been reporting at $70,350 worth of inventory. And that represents a difference between our inventory at end of year price, which is $73,500, and our dollar value LIFO amount, which is $70,350, of $3,150. What the LIFO reserve is the amount that transitions your number from FIFO reporting to LIFO reporting. In this case, had we been doing LIFO the whole time, we would have been reporting $3,150 less inventory. So we're going to store that in our LIFO reserve and move on to our next year. And our next year is 2016. And in 2016, we had ending inventory on our books of 77,280. Let's bring that number over to the EOY inventory column, and then we're going to divide it by that year's price index. And in 2016, it's 1.12. So that $77,280 worth of inventory we had at the end of 2016 would have cost us $69,000 in our base year of 2014. So our inventory, even though the number went up, at base year price, it went down. Well, that means that we need to reduce our layers, and this is still LIFO. So when we reduce our layers, we're going to reduce our newest inventory first. To get to 69,000, we're going to bring down all of our oldest stuff that we can until we get to that point. So let's carry down that entire $63,000 worth of inventory on our books from 2014, multiply it by its price index of 1 to come up with 63,000. And now we're going to reduce 2015's layer down to 6,000, and that 63,000 plus the 6,000 is going to give us $69,000 worth of inventory at base year price. So when your base year price goes down, you need to reduce the newest layer that you have by an amount equal to the difference. In this case, 1,000. Our base year price inventory went down $1,000, so we reduced the value of our 2015 layer by 1,000. We're still going to multiply it by that respective year's index. 2015's index is 1.05, and come up with 6,300. So our inventory at LIFO would be 69,300. Big difference that we have here. If we take our inventory at end of year price and subtract out our dollar value LIFO amount, now our difference is 7,980. That is the amount that we are going to report in our LIFO reserve. In 2017, our inventory at end of year price was 83,520. Let's carry that over to the EOY inventory column and divide it by 2017's price index, which is 116, so we're going to divide by 1.16, bringing our inventory at base year price to 72,000. 2017's inventory, if it had been purchased in 2014, would have cost $72,000. Well, our base year price is now going up. In 2016, our base year price inventory was $69,000. It's up to $72,000. That's a $3,000 difference. And when you go up, you have to add a new layer for the difference in your base year price. So let's carry down all of 2014's inventory. Let's carry down all of 2015's inventory because we're going up. And now we are going to make a layer during the current year, which is 2017. For the difference in base year prices, it increased by 3,000, and multiply that by the respective price index for 2017, which is 1.16, coming out to 3,480. And when we add together 63,000, 6,300, and 3,480, we get a dollar value LIFO cost of 72,780. So our LIFO reserve is going to be found by taking 83,520, our inventory at end of year price in 2017, and subtracting out the dollar value LIFO amount we came up with, which was 72,780. Now our difference is 10,740. So the LIFO reserve, excuse me, the LIFO reserve is just essentially a contra asset account that carries the difference it would take to take your inventory from FIFO amounts down to LIFO amounts. And we carry it on the books just like we would carry any allowance of any sort. So think of it like allowance for bad debt. It works the same exact way. The journal entry that we have, in this case on December 31st, 2015, is going to adjust our LIFO reserve to its target balance. So if we go back to our table, we see at the end of 2014 we had a LIFO reserve of 0, and at 2015 it was up to 3,150. Well, we need to increase our LIFO reserve for the difference, which, because it started at 0, is also 3,150. Why did people use LIFO? Because LIFO gives you the biggest cost of goods sold. So for our adjustment, we need to increase our cost of goods sold to what it would have been under LIFO prices, which is at 3,150. And our credit in this entry is to LIFO reserve. I've also seen this account called allowance to reduce inventory to LIFO balance, which is too much for me to want to write, so I just call it LIFO reserve. Also for 3,150, we adjusted allowance to reduce inventory to its LIFO amount. Exercise number 5 is pretty much the same. In this case, we have Veritech, and we have their ending inventory at FIFO for the same 4-year span and each year's respective price index. So to convert these FIFO numbers to LIFO numbers, we're going to use the same exact table. Starting with 2014, our inventory at end of year price was $102,000. We divide that by our price index. That's our base year, so it's going to be 1, meaning our base year price is going to be the same as our end of year inventory price. And we're going to have a layer for that amount of inventory, and LIFO cost is going to be exactly the same because our price index is the same, meaning that our dollar value LIFO is the same as our inventory at end of year. So our LIFO reserve is going to be 0. Like, your first line will always look exactly like this. The only thing that's going to differ is the year and possibly the number for your inventory at end of year price. In 2015, we had inventory at EOI price of $110,160. So let's carry that number over and divide by our price index. Our price index is 1.02. It's $108,000. So this inventory, had it been bought the year before, would have cost us $108,000. We're going up. Our base year price increased from $102,000 to $108,000, and when your base year price increases, you carry down your existing layer first. So we have our 2014 layer at $102,000, price index of 1 for a LIFO cost of $102,000, and then you create a new layer during the current year, this is 2015, for the amount of increase. We went from $102,000 to $108,000, that is a $6,000 increase. So if we multiply that by our price index of 102, we're going to have a LIFO cost of $6,120, meaning our dollar value LIFO inventory would be $108,120. So again, right here, let's use that formula of inventory at end of year price, or our FIFO price, minus our LIFO price. $110,160 minus $108,120 is going to be a $2,040 difference. On to 2016, we are going to report our inventory at its end of year price, $124,200. And we're going to take that and divide it by that year's price index of 108, and we get $115,000. So 2016's inventory would have cost $115,000 had we bought it 2 years before. Still going up. Our base year price now is increasing by $7,000 from $108,000 to $115,000. So we carry down our existing layers, just straight copying these lines for 2014 and 2015. And then we're going to have to make a new layer for the current year because our base year price inventory increased. So in 2016, the increase from the prior year was $7,000. We multiply that by 1.08. $7,560 would have been the LIFO cost of our inventory for that excess that we picked up in 2016. And if we total that up, that's $115,680 worth of inventory. So our LIFO reserve would be the $124,200 that we have in ending inventory, minus our dollar value LIFO amount of $115,680. And then in 2017, we have $128,400 worth of inventory on the books at end of year price. Well, if we divide that by the price index of 1.20, we get $107,000. And that's a big old drop. We're dropping $8,000 in base year price. When your price goes down, you have to keep reducing your inventory, taking away the last layer you added first. So what are we going to have to do to get down $8,000? Well, our 2016 layer was $7,000. That's going to be gone. And then to get to $8,000, we're also going to have to subtract $1,000 worth of inventory from our 2015 layer. So if we take away the entire $7,000 from 2016 and $1,000 from 2015, that's going to equal up to our $8,000 decrease in inventory at base year price. So what would we have left? We would have the entirety of our 2014 layer at $102,000. And then our 2015 layer would get reduced down to $5,000. Multiply that by that year's price index of 1.02, and you get $5,100 at LIFO cost. So now our dollar value LIFO would be $107,100. Inventory at end of year is $128,400 minus our dollar value LIFO amount of $107,100. Now we have a huge difference of $21,300. So how will we report this on our classified balance sheet? Well, LIFO reserve is still a contra account, so you would report it any way you report an asset with a contra asset tied to it on your financial statements. Our inventory at FIFO would be reported for what it would be at our current year price. It was $128,400. Then we subtract out the value of our LIFO reserve. This is 2017, so the end of the last year. So we take out that $21,300 LIFO reserve, meaning our inventory at LIFO, or net of our reserve, is $107,100. So this is one option for reporting. Another option for reporting this is as such. You can report it inventory net directly at its LIFO price. And then in your notes, you should disclose how you got to this information. So here we say that Veritech uses the LIFO method for valuing inventory. Under the FIFO cost flow assumption, Veritech would have reported $128,400 worth of inventory. So this method's a little weird, but it does allow you to keep FIFO and LIFO numbers at the same time without having to go through the hassle of keeping two entirely different sets of perpetual inventory.